Yo, what the fuck?
Okay, so where the hecko has Ryan been? Well, like always, it's a fun combination of graduating school, getting my first big boy job, painting, learning a bit of voice acting, and other personal projects and distractions. But in addition to all of that, today's game just took an eternity to finish. My end time was around like 50 hours or so. And it felt like so much longer than that too. But I am back, and this time with Digimon Cyber Sleuth. I should preface this by saying that I never really grew up with Digimon. I didn't watch the show or try any of the games, and when I was really young, my dumb mind just thought it was a Pokemon ripoff. Even now, just before playing this game, all I really knew about Digimon was that furries really like some of them. Like, a lot. So, what did I think of my first foray into Digimon? Spoiler alert, I didn't like it. It was bad. It was not enjoyable. Me no like. Made by Mediavision and published by Bandai Namco, this game is nonsensical and boring. Two things you really don't want to be if you're an RPG. Or any game in general, I guess. Before beginning, I'd like to apologize for the slightly lower quality I recorded the game at. I swear, it doesn't actually look this gross. Here it is at a slightly higher quality for frame of reference. It's just that it's such a long game that if I recorded at any higher quality, my computer would have exploded. These videos alone ended up taking 180 gigabytes. So yeah, I needed to make it worse in order to even make the video at all. I'd also like to warn for spoilers, so for my final thoughts, skip all the way to the end at this timestamp. So the game starts up and you're greeted with... Oh boy, here we go, off to a great start. Blah 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 blah. I mean, to be fair, this is about the amount of text that you'd expect in an RPG. Then this nerd here starts being like, wah 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 wah, before letting you pick the story you want. This is the definitive edition, so I have my choice between the main game and this sequel sort of thing. But obviously, I want to play the base game first. When Cyber Sleuth actually begins, you start out in this little chat room cutscene. You and a bunch of other emojis are approached by the mascot of this VR world, and he's like, hey, hot singles in your area, let's meet up, baby. And most of the chat except you and two other people say no, because they are actually smart. You then pick the name and gender of your protag. The default male name is Takumi, and thanks to a running joke between me and a friend involving Fire Emblem, I then changed it to Taco Man, which was possibly the best decision I could have made. The game then introduces you to Eden, this super popular online VR hangout that literally everybody uses. However, this is where our first real problem arrives. There is absolutely zero chance in any reality a VR program like this would catch on. It is devoid of almost anything interesting to look at or do. The chat rooms are just small circles where everyone is social distancing, and worst of all, your avatar has to be you. No funny anime, furry, or otherly ridiculous meme avatars. Just boring old you. For proof why this would never catch on, all you have to do is look at actual VR and see what people actually do in VR.
Hello, I would like to have...
I was never... Just run!
Do you see that? It's like the... No.
Another thing you should know about this world is that hackers are the most dangerous criminals ever conceived and that they are untouchable by law enforcement. Like, yeah, I guess I can understand why you'd be afraid of them when all of your super important business and government deals are conducted on freaking VR chat, but they're not hard to catch. Most of them freely identify themselves and hang around like an open join room, and it's not like they're disguising themselves either, they actually just look like this in the real world. And besides that, all the text about them being bad guys is just fluff. We only ever see like 2 of them actually do anything besides sit around and stare at people menacingly. Anyway, Taco Man shows up in Eden and runs around talking to people until finally figuring out where he's going. Kowloon, basically a giant recycle bin that hackers like to hang out at. And man, I hope you like blue rectangles, because this is the dungeon you will see for the majority of the first half of the game. After a quick anime cutscene, Taco Man meets up with the other 2 people that agreed to show up with him, Arata and Nokia. 2 people that deserve absolutely no friends whatsoever. Arata, this man in the jumpsuit and hoodie with a broken zipper, is the more bearable of the 2 throughout the game. he fluctuates between being your best friend and hating your guts, sometimes in the same sentence. He also just kind of acts all vague and mysterious for no reason and makes very, very dumb decisions that he doesn't seem to regret. But we'll get to that later. Like, way later. And then there is the bane of my existence, Nokia. She is one of the most grating and annoying characters I have ever met in a game. She's the kind of trope where, like, she believes that she's the bestest and cutest and can do anything. But you know, not in an endearing way, because she also just constantly bashes your character and drags you around anywhere she wants. But everyone treats her like she's actually a pretty decent person for some reason. At least they do acknowledge how dumb she is 90% of the time. Her two companion characters are infinitely more enjoyable than her. At least they're cute. Seriously, I cannot put into words how much I just broke down emotionally whenever I had to deal with this character. Another thing I forgot to mention is that there's actually some voice acting in this game. However, they didn't hire any English VAs for it, so it's all in Japanese. Now, normally I could deal with this. While I like English voice actors, I don't mind Japanese as long as the story's still engaging, or the voice actors really convey their emotions well. Sadly, neither of those are true in Digimon, and for the most part, it all just sounds like white noise. It's like their direction was just, hey, pick a voice and emotion and stick with it forever.
質問を質問で返さないでください。さあ。
おい、勘弁しろよ。ふざけてんじゃねえぞ、こんな時に。
本当？助けてくれる？
やったー
I'm sure these VAs are genuinely skilled, but this game and its dialogue just holds them all back. Well, all except for one. But once again, we'll get to that sweet, sweet man later. Sorry for that tangent, I just really have no idea where to put all I have to say about this game in this video. Anyway, while in Kowloon, the robot mascot from earlier shows up again, hacks into each of you, and gives you all a Digimon capture program, before just screwing right off to never be seen again. You all just kind of go, well that was weird, let's go home, and start looking for a way out that isn't mysteriously blocked, and also start explaining what Digimon are. It's believed that they are malicious programs made by hackers to make it easier to break into people, or places, or something, I don't know. I don't think they ever said exactly what they do. The answer is kind of everything, I think? Look, I don't know, I didn't pay attention sometimes. But the point is, these characters are not happy that they suddenly have this program. Despite the fact that they literally do not have to use it, and it does absolutely no harm to them in the slightest. During the search for a way out, Taco Man has a vision of some ghost guy in a jacket messing with his GPU before just piecing right out. Then seconds later, the same guy shows up, but not as a ghost, and is like, yeah, it's a pretty weird coincidence that this ghost everyone keeps seeing looks like me, huh? But, you know, he says it in Japanese. And then he just throws a Digimon at you. Now, obviously I had to pick Terriermon, the excessively adorable one. I don't even have a joke or anything to make about it, I just obviously had to pick him. I mean, look at him, he's adorable. The choice was clear. Now begins the fighting tutorial, and there is a ton of it. Now, generally I can forgive a game's not so great story or visuals if the gameplay itself is pretty fun, as I'm sure most people can. However, that is really not the case here. On a fundamental level, the fighting mechanics aren't broken or terrible, they're just boring. It's kind of standard for RPGs involving typed moves. There's basic attack, guard, flee, and special moves. There are different buffs, debuffs, and stat effects, my favorite being pixelation. I'll give them that, that's actually kind of cool. Sometimes multi-attacks also proc, giving you enhanced damage, healing, or stat changes. But it happens so randomly, it's really not worth relying on. You can also swap out Digimon mid-battle with some in reserve. The amount of Digis you have in your party is dependent on numerical memory spaces you have, with stronger ones costing more. Occasionally, you'll also have an allied Digimon helping you out. They are great to have, because enemies will oftentimes target them, and they are invincible, having a seemingly infinite number of hit points to tank any hit. And I really feel there's no need to explain more than that. It's probably all stuff you've seen before. The only kind of unique thing that this game had going for it was that there were two kinds of typing, elemental and alignment. Elemental is generally only really important to moves where they're either neutral, weaker, or stronger against another Digimon's element. Kind of standard stuff, honestly. The other aspect which made the fight slightly more interesting were the alignments. Each Digimon is either vaccine, data, virus, or neutral. It forms this odd kind of rock, paper, scissors thing, with one being effective against the other in a triangle. So, in order to truly excel at the fight, you need to remember both of those typings. Supposedly. Honestly, the alignment was a more significant damage multiplier than element, so that was really the only one I ever bothered remembering. I never even really figured out which elements worked against each other. At least the targeting reticule gives a little bit of a hint before you attack. After this Not Ghost Boy helps you, he introduces himself as Yugo, leader of an infamous hacking team. So infamous, in fact, that their crimes include just sitting around in a room doing nothing. Ooh, terrifying. Meanwhile, Nokia, having been abandoned by everyone else probably because they already hate her, begins to be assaulted by two Digimon. And by assaulted, I mean they run around her screaming. But look at him! Gabumon is adorable! I absolutely love him. Agumon's a fine little lizard, I guess, whatever. But look at my beautiful chunky baby! If there's one thing Digimon usually does well, it's designs, and I will admit both of them are pretty great. Both of these little Digimon mention that Nokia smells familiar, before running off again when Taco Man shows up. Nokia also mentions that him and Arata seem familiar as well for some odd reason, before having a vision of a bunch of kids real quick. I wonder what the big plot twist near the end of the game could be. The two of them manage to find Arata staring at an exit, before some giant Nautilus thing shows up and is all scary and stuff, and I will admit does actually look kind of cool. The thing is apparently known to eat people's data, so, oh no, your VR chat saved avatars will be deleted, But, oh no, the exit is locked. So while Arata and Taco Man work on escaping, Nokia just stands there like an absolute idiot. Her Digimon and yours step in to help, but the Nautilus has been working out, and nothing you do hurts it at all. It's okay though, because the exit is now unlocked. But unfortunately, because Nokia had to stand around and be nothing but an absolute menace to society as a whole, Taco Man can't make it to the exit, and gets omnommed by the giant scary cephalopod. It's kind of okay though, because for some reason he wakes up as a pixel man in the middle of a street, before the police do what they do best and yell about arresting an innocent man that has done literally nothing. But more things happen, and a car just swings up in front of you with this big booby lady being like, "Get in, nerd," also a cab, and Taco Man just does? Dang, he's taking this well. The woman introduces herself as a private investigator named Kyoko. Her running joke is that she makes absolutely vile coffee combinations and forces you to drink them. She also constantly references folklore for no reason. And you better get used to having Miss Nobra being on your screen for 75% of your game, because she's a primary character and also a quest giver. Hope your super hardcore Christian parents aren't watching you play the funny animal game. Kyoko tells you that you're weird, thanks, and that she wants to help you recover your body because she just finds you interesting and wants to help. She recommends trying to find spare avatar parts, whatever the absolute heck that means. And then you just kind of interrupt her by standing up and jumping into her TV. After traveling through a cool looking hallway, you eventually make your way into a tiny lab room belonging to someone named Mirai, which essentially will serve as a kind of Pokemon Center. And that means even more tutorials. Now, there are a couple of services that you're allowed to use here. The first is just a basic pay-for-heal service to restore all of your party's HP and SP. Thanks, capitalism. The second is a shop that sells some basic healing items and other small gear. The third is how you get new Digimon. As you randomly encounter them, you build up this little gauge that, once it gets to 100%, you can redeem to summon that Digimon. Honestly, kind of a cool way to incentivize you to fight things. It's also where, once stat prereqs are met, you can digivolve your guides into stronger monsters. Or, you can devolve them into weaker forms, so you can train and evolve them again to up one specific stat that has a very high threshold for late game evolutions. It's kind of annoying, actually. But I digress. Another fun thing they have in here is the Digimon farm. Instead of popping extra ones into the storage area, you can toss them into grueling forced labor instead, where they can either train, make items, or investigate for small side quests. Honestly, training's the only one that's really worth it. The items aren't too amazing, and the side quests are literally just talk to this guy, go find a shiny thing in another room, bring it back to the first room. Congrats, you get basically nothing. Finally, there's the online matchmaking service. After picking one of the only right choices from a list of possible avatars, you are ready to go kick some butt. Now, when Pokemon Sword and Shield's DLC came out, I saw a tweet that said something like, "Play Cyber Sleuth instead. It's a better game and has a really good competitive scene." Now 1, the game is not good. And 2, want to see what happens when I try the online matchmaking? There's also Mirai herself, who will give you a quick bit of guidance if you ever forget what you're doing. And in a game where this is your only means of figuring out your current quest progress, it is a very helpful feature. So, all in all, get used to seeing this room a lot during your playthrough. Now that you're out of there, you get to learn about overworld abilities too! Yay! More tutorials! Reminds me of Xenoblade 2.
Time to take you down. Still more.
Now, I really have no idea why these are even in the game outside of forcing you to use them for kinda lame puzzles. The main one you'll use is firewall breaking, which is just when you have a high enough level Digimon in your party, you can crack bigger walls. But it's kind of pointless because there are NPCs blocking firewalls that you shouldn't be passing yet anyway. There's also reducing or increasing encounters, which forces you to watch a slow animation each time you do it, and also doesn't even really make that much of a difference. Then there's your copy-paste and later invisibility, which are just for puzzles and story bits that don't serve much purpose. As you're walking around, you'll also occasionally receive texts from your friends and farm Digimon. Now, these texts are pointless, do nothing, and a lot of times are just kind of nonsensical. At least with the friends, it can give you a bit of extra character details. But with farm Digimon, they'll just pester you with the same message or pointless quiz over and over and over and over and over until you just start to ignore them all forever. Once again, without consequence, as they do literally nothing. Okay, I think I'm done with all the tutorial mechanic stuff for now, so I can finally talk about what the game is actually about. It only took me this long to do it. We're only on chapter 1 out of 20. God help me. Taco Man runs around for a while gathering avatar parts before finally assembling his body back to exactly how it was somehow. Come on, dude, you could have picked anything. Like, make yourself a little more buff, or give yourself a tail or something. I don't know. Live it up a little bit. Once you get back to the office, a detective friend of Kyoko shows up and talks about Eden Syndrome, a disease that affects some of the people who use the service and sends them into a seemingly permanent comatose state. The only reason people still use VR chat despite this is because the company that runs Eden is covering it up. So Kyoko tells Taco Man, "Come on, we're breaking into the hospital." An anime cutscene in the hospital shows that this character is going to be important. Ooh, so mysterious. After breaking into the special treatment ward using a computer, you see yourself lying in bed. Rest in peace, Taco Man. You died too young and too boring. After seeing his own decaying corpse in bed, Taco Man then moves on to gathering some data linking the comas to Eden's company, Kamishira. On your way out, the girl from earlier stops you and continues to act all ominous and mysterious about literally everything, before Kashibi, the second seductress of the game, shows up and acts super kawaii and super annoying. She then leaves just as soon as she came, after teasing Mr. Girl about a boyfriend. Or girlfriend. She's not judging. Good for her. Back at the office, Kyoko semi-blackmails Taco Man into becoming her assistant in order to find out how to fix his new digital body. And Taco Man is confirmed to go to school, so I like to imagine that he's skipping like all of his classes. Or maybe not, who knows? This game is really bad at giving any sense of time progressing. Around this point, I also grabbed some DLC Digimon that came with my Definitive Edition copy. They really help carry you through the first small chunk of the game, if you have enough party space to hold them. I just felt like, for the sake of transparency, I should note that I did grab these guys, but I hardly used them for a majority of my playthrough. While running some errands for Kyoko, Taco Man runs into the bane of my existence, and then later also Arata and some schoolmates who serve almost no point to the game. Then back at the office, the mystery girl, whose name is Yuko, shows up and asks that I find her missing father, whose Eden account got stolen. I also found a clothing shop, and seeing a shirt called Game Life t-shirt, had to get it. And it was the best decision I could have made outside of picking Taco Man's name. Seeing my character run around in this stupid shirt that says escapism on the back with some angel wings, it brought a small amount of joy into my sad life. Now time for the investigation. The actual mechanics of which are talk to person, give them keywords, progress the plot, and that's it. I didn't mention it earlier because you almost never even do that. It's also super boring. The detective part of this game is all just a lie. After a lot of wandering around, talking to people, entering a hacker base, more wandering around, and then fighting some guys, you eventually find not only Yuko's dad's account and free it from a hacker, but you also find his himself as well! And gasp! Another twist. He's not actually her dad, and Yuko is actually the daughter of the former head of Kamashiro, who passed away not that long ago and left his company to Kishibe. And then, she just leaves. Hell yeah. Case closed, game over, go home Taco Man. After that, you're instructed to take some cases from the quest board. Now, you basically have to do this after almost every chapter. Even though these quests have basically nothing to do with the main story, you're required to do them in order to progress. A few of them have their own overarching story, so I'll quickly go over some of the more notable ones so I never have to bring them up again. One of them is about this little cat Digimon you find in an old computer buried inside the wall for some reason. He just kind of decides to hang out with you, and then suddenly, near the end of the game, panics and remembers who he is. Then this old guy shows up looking for him, and both of them ambiguously maybe die while walking off. Then there's this group of paranormal investigators from a school club. They see one actual spooky thing and almost die, and then they kind of just look into basically nothing cases that waste your time. There's also a bunch of one-off quests that require you just talking to a person, going to a place, then reporting back to the agency. You also usually have to fight a Digimon or two at the end of a tiny, boring dungeon in basically every quest. Some of them are neat, I guess, like one where it ends with the revelation that a group was harvesting organs or something from the people trapped in Eden by making them think it was the real world where they were surrounded by women and making them unable to wake up. But those cool and interesting quests are few and far between, and they're still kind of boring to actually do. And that's about it. Honestly, these are just basically segments of forced padding. Some of the quests you're forced to do actually pertain somewhat to the main story, but you're still forced to do a handful of irrelevant ones. I kind of think it would be better to just have a couple of story important ones, and then some non-essential ones that may form a quest line. And a lot of them you have to go quite a bit out of the way to even hunt down, just to go back to the board to start them. I think, as a player, I feel better doing side quest lines that connect but aren't necessary, than having a mandatory irrelevant part of the story shoved on me. After some more mandatory side quests, Nokia shows up and asks you to help find Agumon and Gabumon. After battling your way through more blue rectangles, you find both of them being harassed by some hackers. And after easily beating those hackers, you meet the only saving grace this game has. Jimmy Can!
I am Jimmy Cat! Yeah!
This Kiss wannabe here is my favorite character. He does nothing but act insane, yell nonsensically, say lol unironically, and use random English words. And people in this world absolutely love this singer for some reason. He's also a secret hacker. I have nothing more to say about this character. He is just very entertaining, and I'll let these clips speak for themselves.
No. You たち、ノンロック。おいおい、お前ら。Help me please, as soon as
After beating up Jimmy Ken's Digimon, while he air guitars like an absolute madman in the background, Yugo and his sidekick girl Faye show up and they're like, "Jimmy Ken, knock it off." And he's like, "Screw you, lol, but okay, I'll go by." Faye then messes around with Nokia by spooking her before both her and Yugo then also leave. Hooray, we did it! We saved the Digimon! Yay! The two Digis then explain that, what a twist! They aren't actually made by humans. Except that several side quests have you take on Digimon that were explicitly made by humans. And they're actually from another digital world. Except they have no idea why they're in the human world right now, and are also basically being enslaved by Digimon capture devices. And now don't really know what to do next. Oops! Kyoko then messages you and tells you to quickly get to Shinjuku. And when you show up, the subway is also doing this weird rectangle thing. Except this time, they're purple.
Let's see it purple!
You meet up with Arata and get yelled at by Lady Arrest-a-Lot before diving headlong into the subway to get away from her. Behold, mementos. I mean, digital subway dungeon. Arata joins your team as a guest character for a bit while you're delving. As you go deeper, he switches between being a jerk and being nice like every 5 seconds, before having a vision of a group of kids as well. A little bit later, he notices that someone is following the two of you, and this super normal and not at all evil man shows himself after being called out. The man introduces himself as Suedo, and claims that he's just investigating. Sure, if you say so. He then goes on to say that the dungeon was formed because bits of the digital world merged with the real one somehow, making the subway a cyberspace like Eden. He also explains that the giant Nautilus things floating all over the place are eaters, things that eat the data of humans and shove their real selves into a comatose state. He's then like, "Oh, by the way, there's one down there too, but I'm sure your Digimon can fight it. Have fun, bye!" So Takoman and Arata head even deeper and confront the eater. And they defeat it pretty easily, actually. These things are a threat in what basically killed you? It's kinda cringe if you ask me. With its defeat, mementos, the digital shift is gone. Then Arata goes ACAB and flees from the police, while you just head back to Kyoko's and are forced to do more meaningless side quests. Yay! One notable one has you beating up a Digimon that merged with a program that has secretly been stealing people's personal data and thoughts. You know, just like Facebook. It's only really relevant because this leads to you getting an invisibility power that I mentioned earlier, which honestly could have just been taken out of the game entirely, as it's really only story and mechanically relevant once. Otherwise, it's just to bypass an NPC wall that's in several places in late game for no reason. Yuko then shows up again and asks you to look into another company that the man she had you find earlier worked for. She believes that her company has been doing some scummy stuff, and wants to get to the bottom of it. You track him down and learn that he quit his company about the same time that Kamishiro died, and that his personality seemed to change quite a bit when he did. The detective shows up again and mentions his suspicions that the company was obtained by Kamishiro somewhat illegally and forcefully, and that they then hid all files about it in a super secure private server. Using Yuko's help as an important figure in the company, you break into the Kamishiro servers with your invisible power. After going through a simple, albeit annoying room, Kyoko realizes that your plan has been compromised, but it's too late to get you out of there. And when you finally find the files you're looking for, and use another pointless ability to unlock them, some generic hackers come in. Oh no! Good thing you can turn invisible. Except, you electric sneeze, which your character stops mid-story to explain to you, and it's pointless and not funny. It also literally just ends with, it's basically just a normal sneeze, but cyberpunk. Honestly, this is the exact point that I just gave up on the game. I still have hours and hours to go, but I am just already checked out. This is just too painful for me. Listen, Taco Man, just decide if you're a silent or vocal pro tag. I need you to pick one. At least I get to pick what sneeze I made. Then, when it looks like you're about to get your butt kicked, Yugo shows up and tells the hackers off. Then Jimmy Ken shows up and tells Yugo off, and absolutely steals the scene as he has done many times before.
Yeah! I am Jimmy Ken! Yahoo!
You then kick his butt, he pretends to have a sore throat and a terrible save face, and then everyone runs off. leaving you to just yoink the data. Back at the office, you go over all of your info. It seems like you were right, and Kamoshida just kinda forcefully took over the other company, and the man that you found earlier related to it seems to have just completely had a change of personality and heart. Weird, but they just gloss right over it, instead mentioning that Suedo also worked there, and made the avatar system in Eden. The detective man runs off to go do something else with this info, and bam! End of chapter, hell yeah, one step closer to being done with this game and their made-up electric sneezes. The super angry, power-abusing cop shows up again and yells at you to do her work for her and hunt down some missing persons, because she's useless. To start this off, I hunt down this stalking nerd in Akihabara, and during the quest, several people spit out some really awkward dialogue and mildly amusing JoJo poses. After finding your way to a forum, Arata shows up and tries to hide the fact that he's an otaku. Later, you meet with a girl who then also vanishes after she says that people disappearing have all trash-talked some person's dojin. After another digi-hunt in Eden, Taco Man and Arata make their way to an alleyway, when suddenly, another digital shift happens and pulls them into another dungeon. In this world, all the missing people just stand there still and silently. Sueda then also shows up, says that he's figured out how to track these digital shifts, and then just kind of dips out again. Bye. You also come across the stalker JoJo nerd, who has also fallen victim to this. And once again, the game cannot decide whether you're a silent or vocal protagonist. After clearing out some TVs, you finally find the cause of the missing persons cases. This girl, who is waving a comically large brush around in a very amusing fashion. She gets pissed at you for saying her stuff is trash, and then fights you. And then you win, obviously. But, oh no! She gets killed by an eater! Whoops, my anarchy symbol. How she's manipulating these weird little digital worlds to basically enslave the haters, I don't think the game ever really tells us. No one else in the game manipulates these places, so how she did will forever remain a mystery, I guess. Thanks, Digimon. After beating up the eater and escaping TV land, the police officer thanks you sort of, and then you head back to Kyoko. It's then time for some more quests! One of them has you help your friend find work for some conspiracy theorist. I spent my reward money on gachapons. Look at all of my beautiful medals. Another quest has you head down into a waterway just to unlock a door for some workers. After some weird Japanese lore and theories from Kyoko, you unlock the door and head in to find another digital shift. And walking through it, you find some government Kamishiro base sort of thing. So, instead of looking around that mystery, you strut right into the front door of a government building because it's not a good idea to go into the waterway for some reason, despite you being made out of literal data and probably unable to be harmed by something like bullets. You then also defeat an eater inside the building, and kind of just leave it alone for now. Yeah, who cares that these shifts have been literally comatose death sentencing people? Just leave it be, what's the worst that could happen? Spoiler alert, something bad happens and you have to suffer for it. After another quest where you help a girl fall in love with a furry's music, you're then told that one of your classmates disappeared suddenly after being obsessed with a music video. I can think of only one man rad enough to do this. Jimmy Ken. And he's most likely funded by Kamishiro for some reason because that's what the game is telling me is happening. Quick, Gargomon, to the hacker cave! But not before we make a quick pit stop for Nokia, because Taco Man thinks she can help somehow. When hunting around Eden for Jimmy Ken followers, you find your other classmate getting his booty beat by some random hackers. Nokia runs up yelling about helping, is then publicly shamed by her Digimon for not helping, and then forces you to help instead. After demolishing his Digimon, Nokia sicks her gremlins and your classmate on the hacker, and you get info on where Jimmy Ken is hiding. The two Digis then ask about adolescence while Nokia desperately tries to explain why a high schooler is horny. Taco Man and Nokia then track down the singer to his secret rock star island, where he has hypnotized a bunch of underage kids to worship him like a god, follow him wherever he goes, and is recording all of it. Yeah, Jimmy Ken's kind of a creep. I take back what I said about him being cool. He's messed up now. So you beat him up, and he's actually a somewhat difficult fight. Maybe I just suck. Shrug. But then Yugo and Faye show up and they're like, kapow! And erase Jimmy Ken from existence. And I mean that almost literally. This is like the last required story moment that actually has him in it. Nokia then gets mad at Faye for like absolutely no reason, and then the two of them start a Digimon fight, before Faye's, according to all known laws of aviation Pokemon, absolutely obliterates Agu and Gabumon. But then Yugo steps in, stops their little Yu-Gi-Oh duel, and gives you the coordinates to the Jimmy-Ken girls. And then later, Nokia calls herself cute and sexy, two things she is definitely not. After some more pointless side quests, including one where you stop a Digimon being used as a weapon that doesn't want to be a weapon and thinks you're going to use him as well and would rather die than be controlled and it's all deep and stuff, and also one where you just go out and eat a bunch with your friends, the story finally continues. Kishibe is just like, I know we did a whoopsie little white collar crime, but we didn't mean to, ooh. Well, so sorry, we fired all your bad mans. Please forgive us. I'm now completely in charge of the company, whoa. And the detective is pissed because them exposing themselves and making a scapegoat made them look significantly better than if he just exposed them like planned. But you're all just kind of like, oh well, nothing we can do, let's just wait around I guess. Nah man, it's like 2025 or some year like that. I'm sure Twitter's still around. Just go make a public call-out post. Meanwhile, Nokia has decided to take it upon herself to make a holy crusade against other hackers that are cruel to Digimon, despite her having no fighting or hacking skills whatsoever. But it's okay. She knows that she's useless too. So her goal is to form a hacker group to do all the hard work for her. Arata, very smartly, walks out of this almost immediately. But you're the protag, so guess what that means? You're roped into this group against your will! Nokia just also really hates Faye. She starts shouting about how Faye talks weird and is a pervert. Like, oh my god Nokia, please calm down. Yuko then also makes the mistake of walking in on this before dipping out just as quickly. And then Nokia just straight up insults Taco Man. I mean, she's right about the statement, sure, but Jesus Nokia, we're supposed to consider you a friend and character to root for? So Nokia then drags you around Eden to grab hackers for your group. Yugo appears and very generously warns her that this is a bad idea and she's playing with powers and people she shouldn't be. But Nokia yells, I gotta believe! And runs off with you. Surprisingly, she actually manages to get a few people to help you. But only after you beat a couple of them up with almost no help from her. Then they all leave to do some hacker stuff or something. You meet up with Arata later, and he explains that he wants to try and find some way to fix Eden Syndrome. Because he's finally realized that him leaving you behind caused you to basically die and become a hollow digital husk. He gets an A for effort, at least. The both of you then arrive at Asakusa during another digital shift, somehow coincidentally. Don't ask me how, the plot teleporter and the computer dictated it. This one's actually a bit more fun because it has people wandering around inside it this time. For some reason, the busy subway system didn't. I love this shopkeeper though. She really says exactly what the American way is all about. So after taking out two guys on each side and then walking up a straight shot, you reach the second room where an eater is hiding out. But since there are people here this time, it actually crunches up their data and essentially kills them right in front of you before turning into a wiggly Slender Man. After beating it up super cool like and all that, things return to normal and Suedo shows up again, says some creepy stuff to Arata, and then leaves. Thanks dude. Some more side quests later and you all decide to sneak into a Kamashiro VIP event with Arata and Yuko's help. The goal is to find information on the Valhalla server, the first server in Eden, and hope that it has something we can use to keep the plot going. Breaking in using disguises that you quickly drop so the game devs didn't have to do any extra animation mapping, you're suddenly hit with another vision.
A vision!
While you run through a circle dungeon copy-pasting funny meme JPEGs, Yuko starts looking for a password to get you into the deeper parts of Cyberland. As you're about to head into the secret room, an eater suddenly shows up to have its Nautilus butt smashed by Taco Man's dragon. Then Yuko sends the password just in time, and what it is made me die just a tiny bit inside. Seems the characters felt the same. Love the Japanese dialogue though.
Rie-chan, moe moe.
Rie-chan, moe moe.
Unfortunately, Yuko fricked up. She got caught. Dang it girl, stop creating more story conflict. And wow Rie, real subtle security alarm there. It looks more like a nuclear launch. Arriving in Rie's secret room, which is just her room but cyber, you're forced to run right over and interact with her dresser, where Taco Man then pulls out and continuously holds panties. Thanks for making me look at a panties joke, Digimon. Even though any sane person would probably just look at the book on their bed first. Ew. Also, hey, wait a second. This is a digital room. Why does this real woman with a real body need digital panties? Oh, I'm sorry. Ugh, my bad. I had a cyber sneeze. I don't like this game. After that unfunny tangent, it finally lets me look at the book, Rie's Diary. But before it can be read, you get a notice from Kyoko that there's been a breach at the event. You pop in real quick to see even more people get murdered right before your eyes by a horde of eaters. Meanwhile, Yuko, who is caught by Rie, confronts the hussy about Eden syndrome, but is told, "Hey, stop right there or I will kill your brother in the hospital." And then goes, "Haha, lol JK." And then goes, "I'll actually kill everybody." And then she just lets Yuko go. Then Suedo shows up and says more ominous stuff with Rie, because of course he does. Please don't look at me like that, man. Everyone meets back at the office, and they're pretty upset that Kamashiro is placing the blame for this on 4chan, I mean, just hackers in general. Taco-man passes along Rie's diary, Yuko leaves all upset, you comfort her real quick, and then Arata is killed by Kyoko's coffee. All in a day's work. You then have to head down into Eden again to make sure Nokia doesn't kill herself by harassing people to either join her group, or at the very least sign a petition or something. I still have no idea what her plan is. During a fight where I could have easily won if it wasn't for story demanding that I do 0 damage, Nokia's Digimon digivolve for her, because they love her so much. Go back, you were better the other way. At least you actually do damage now. Defeating this fight for real this time, haha, Shadow Mirror match, see what they did there? So clever! Nokia is very proud that she gave this man a bloody nose with her pheromones. Ew. I have no idea how he finds this monstrosity hot, but to each their own, I guess. You also meet up with Yugo, who is once again asking you to stop Nokia from being an idiot. After you for some reason tell him to just chill and not worry about it, he takes you for a walk and keeps talking about how much he loves Eden, before once again absolutely begging you to not let Nokia do something stupid. After one more pointless quest with your classmate having you ask your friends what to get his crush as a gift, the story bits finally progress again. Yugo declares a crusade on their holy land so he can remake Eden. He says that he feels bad about lying to his group, but he needs to utilize their strength to achieve his goals. Dang, it really is just like the Crusades. Faye also looks creepy, but don't worry, she's not actually going to do any backstabbing or anything, because you can't have this game actually do anything cool. You then meet up with Nokia, who immediately berates you despite you literally carrying her whole operation. It's further shown how much you are one-manning this thing when you're forced to train with her hacker group, who are all pathetic. Yugo then shows up again to again tell Nokia to just stop, to which she says, "Hey, if you want me to stop, use your power to accomplish this goal we both clearly believe in." Actually making a good point for once. But then Yugo, like most politicians, laughs and pieces out. Yugo announces that they're raiding the first server, the two very evil people laugh evilly over making sure they can screw all these people over, and Nokia ignores Arata's advice to not go fight against Yugo's group. Arata, having no spine to let Nokia suffer the consequences of her actions, forces you to go with him to help, officially making this a battle between 4 different factions.
What could possibly go wrong?
Arata reveals that the reason he's so concerned for this battle is because his hacker group tried to take on the original server once, but the security system absolutely demolished all of them, and he feels super guilty about hurting them. Thank God! I thought it was because he cared about Nokia. Glad to see someone still has their brain. So off to a Digimon Warzone we go. Yay! After a bunch of very boring, very repetitive, and very annoying back and forth copy-paste puzzles, during which you are bombarded with enemies, Taco-man and Arata finally find Nokia. She immediately thinks that you're there to steal the credit from her, like she was going to do anything anyway, so Arata bribes her Digimon with meat on the bone for Jaja, which only certain celebrities are allowed to eat. Dang, I didn't know cartoon meat was classist. But the ruse works, and Nokia's Digimon run off and abandon her, allowing Taco-man and Arata to keep going in deeper. When you make it to the depths, Yugo's crew is there just booping a bunch of screens in front of this rhombus of infinite subjugation, while he laments how much of his group couldn't fight all the way down there. What, like it was hard? I just matched a bunch of colors. Arata interrupts them and tells them that it's not the security that destroyed his hacker team, but something that attacked them, destroyed most of their accounts, and locked them out of Eden. But like, dude, come on, you're hackers. Just use a VPN or something and make a new account. Apparently, some of them were so scared by the cybersecurity guard that they quit hacking forever. Reminds me of when I got scared by SCP's warnings. When Arata's persuasion roll fails, he's just like, "Show yourself, my ninjas!" And some teens and the middle-aged guy pop up out of nowhere to help him. But right when you're about to fight, Nokia and her harem barge in to ruin the moment with her own friendship speech. As a massive fight breaks out, you and Arata take on and beat up Yugo, who does not live up to his reputation as scary strong. Meanwhile, Nokia is continuing her super pointless hate fight against Faye. You then get to play as Nokia's team for a minute, which is kind of cool, except for the fact that it's another scripted to lose fight. It's kind of funny, you're just stuck at 1 HP the whole time. The battle then fades out and Nokia goes, "Blah blah blah, friendship and bonds," and holds her phone up for no reason in another anime cutscene, causing her 2 Digis to evolve again, becoming the super OP Omnimon, and doing this pose that I'm sure everyone involved in the game thought was super cool. And I mean, it kind of is, it just has Nokia ruining it. Wabam! Instantly demolish Faye with my digital deity. The battle theme is oddly intense, too. Yugo starts complaining about failing to achieve his father's dream, and Arata just goes on full blast and says that he's acting really feminine. Like, spoiler alert, they are a girl, but dude, no need to be so judgmental. They weren't even saying anything that crazy. Kishibe then suddenly appears and is like, "Hi, hi, hi! Hi!" before shoving some eaters into the room. And Nokia wastes precious time by talking nonsense about this absolute unit's name. Once all the eaters are beaten dead, because you've done this a million times before and can do it with one hand behind your back now, the game pretends that you're struggling and can't take on what's present, just so they can show off Omnimon saying something cool. The cyber ghost Yugo shows up, and your Yugo is like, "Nissan!" before it, and all of the eaters, just vanish for seemingly no justifiable reason. Then your Yugo is forcibly logged out, so Takaman quickly jumps into action to follow the Yugo residuals. Tasty residuals. Oh my god! What a twist! Yugo was Yuko all along! Who could have seen this coming? It's not like you can just guess it because their names are so similar like I did. Kishibe tells Yuko that she's been controlling the eaters for the past little minute, and that she needs Yuko's memories for some reason. But then you show up, and are immediately teleported away. Okay, that was actually kinda funny, I'll give you that one, game. Kishibe then monologues and tells Yuko that she created a false Yugo memory for her to use in Eden that actually somehow subtly manipulated Yugo into doing things that Kishibe wanted. Also that some random hackers could be nommed up by eaters. Arata looks at all of the brain-dead hackers, vowing to avenge them as a lone wolf, forgetting the fact that he's already talking to someone who's brain-dead. Nokia then swears to keep fighting her own battles, even though she 100% will not. Kyoko says that the media is waving away the Eden syndrome a bunch of people fell to as the result of hackers. She says she'll find where Yuko is, but it'll take some time. Despite you having seen the room she was trapped in earlier, and knowing the exact location of it because of that. Okay, massive story dump over, I think. That was confusing, and I typed this up at 1 AM on 4 hours of sleep. So if it doesn't make sense, I still blame the game. Later meeting up with Omnimon, they explain that the Eaters infested their world, and because Eaters are caused by bad human emotions, the king of the digital world thinks that exterminating humans is the only way to fix it. But they also maybe went insane or something too, I don't know. So several of his high-ranking knights got sent to the human world, some of them supporting, and some of them opposing, Earth's entire genocide. They plan on actually accomplishing this destroy all humans goal by opening up a giant portal in Japan, and dragging a bunch of their digis into the real world, which Kishibe is working on doing right now. Oh god, what are we just doing standing around? Informing Arata and Kyoko of the plan, Arata goes to do some hacking stuff, while Takaman is sent to save Yuko along with Nokia. While finally going through the underground tunnels from earlier, you two are stopped by Faye, who wants to help you find Yuko, and also explains that Yuko pretended to be Yugo to keep his memory alive while he's stuck with Eden Syndrome. Faye doesn't actually help fight for some reason though, despite being an extremely capable tamer, so her inclusion is just more boring story stuff. Nokia also finally shows some empathy to another human being, meaning that there must have been a translation error. A bit further in, you finally find Yuko strapped to a machine. Nokia must be blind, because even though it's visible from the hallway, she has no idea where Yuko is, despite staring directly at her. Kishibe, who thankfully decided to just stand there watching the whole time instead of leaving to use the bathroom or something, is waiting for you there. Omnimon calls you up and is like, hey, that ain't no human, and what a twist! She's actually Crusadermon, another Knight Digimon who wants to destroy the Earth. Suedo also shows up near Arata, and reveals that he was the one that made the Digimon capture program, and forced it upon the protagonists. And then he leaves. Okay, bye, I guess. Also, because the doors between worlds are open, Omnimon is a real boy now. Yay! After thoroughly thrashing Crusadermon, they wimp out at half health and go to watch the apocalypse. And then there's this super cool anime cutscene where a giant hole opens up in the sky and Digimon start falling out of it like Evangelion or something. I don't know, I never watched it. But then this huge dragon just comes out and it's like, rah! And then Crusadermon's gloating and it's actually really cool, and then the dragon just incinerates itself upon entry. And their whole invasion plot fails because their super weapon is near death almost immediately. But anyway, that was a little too cool for this game, so let's cut back to Nokia whining to set the tone again. Arata then cuts the power, causing the dimensional gate thing to close up basically as soon as it opened, further causing this Digimon's plan of world destruction to fail. I will give the game credit, it's actually really funny seeing an enemy's plan legitimately just fail. Usually they would just achieve it so the plot could continue. But no, this game just has Crusadermon's ultimate world-ending plot just go right on its face. But then, surprise! Another Eater shows up out of nowhere. Because of course it does. How big is this room anyway? And just crunches Yuko. And for some reason, this one becomes a giant scary spider with Yuko trapped on it. Why it turned into a Dark Souls boss even though all the other Eaters just became Slender Man, I have no idea. But hey, it did, and that's what really counts in the end. After fighting it for a bit, you're all concerned that you'd hurt Yuko if you kept going, so you decide that an amazing and totally not potentially devastating idea is to connect jump right into the Eater. Faye's Barry B. Benson also pops out to give support, since he's also now a real boy. You get a short anime cutscene of you falling through a magic eye puzzle portal, and then spawn in. Inside the Eater, you're sent down a hallway. A very cool hallway, sure, even though it probably gives some people eye strain or headaches, but a hallway regardless. Along the way, Yuko's subconscious is super depressed, because not only did she help bring about the start of the Apocalypse genocide because she unknowingly followed the machinations of a crazy computer woman, but she also failed her original goal of bringing people with Eden Syndrome, especially her brother, back to the waking world. Taco Man and Faye's Jerry Seinfeld help snap Yuko out of this funk, and she realizes that she's not alone in her efforts, and that she should not give up. Also, despite floating in space, you make running noises. Curing her depression somehow not only frees her from the Eater, but erases the Eater from existence at the same time. Ain't that convenient? Yuko thanks Faye for being her friend, which Faye is overjoyed to hear. Then Nokia, freaking Nokia, tries to out this woman in front of her crush. And then when Faye gets mad, Nokia doubles down by teasing her for being a lesbian. Oh my god, Nokia, you are truly a horrible person. You two were just enemies 30 minutes ago. You do not have the friendship level to do this to a person. Read the room for once. Why are we supposed to think you're the empathetic one? Thankfully, everyone immediately ignores that because this random ultra wormhole from Pokemon Sun just opens up behind Taco Man, sucks him in, and then just leaves. This is so random and sudden, it's honestly hilarious for me. But don't worry too much about that. Here, have some small children flashbacks. And then you wake up inside James Cameron's avatar. You meet Yugo's ghost, but it's actually a surprise ambush, and a bunch of Eaters come out to gobble up your zeros and ones. You're warned by a voice that this is how the world is going to end, before his Discord call starts to break up. But then you wake up in the void and start talking to Yugo, who says that he called you here to have a discussion. But he doesn't actually say too much outside the fact that the ghost that shows up in Eden is just his memory fragments. Then suddenly, Mothman shows up and drags you back into the waking world. Remember me, Taco Man. Taco Man wakes up about a week later, the world is in pixelated shambles, and the first thing you hear upon waking up is this. Please just put me back in the void. Back at the office, it's explained that the world is in shambles. Digimon are running around IRL, Eaters are attacking people in the real world, you still have no idea where Crusadermon is, and Kyoko has gone missing. Things are looking pretty bleak. But don't worry, you still have to do cases between story events. Cool, thanks game. Oh, and Arada is also about to be arrested, but goes, "A cab!" and books it out of there. Bye Arada, have fun. Angry corrupt cop shows up and is like, "Hey, I found this weird dog, and your next task is to find its friend." Congrats! We're now halfway through the game. And the gameplay and story don't get much better. So, the combat stays about the same, except that now you start to more and more often see the bug status effect. This one absolutely sucks. Basically, it changes your Digimon's type to another one, like virus to data. This can instantly turn a battle stacked in your favor to one where you're barely doing any damage. And this applies to both when your team or the enemy team gets stuck with the effect. It's just all around horrible, and a lot of enemies at this point in the game have it. In addition to the combat becoming more difficult and annoying, there's also some weirdness going on with the text. Your character starts having full sentences presented as choices. So like, each choice line is either full or part of a sentence that Taco Man then says to the other character. Why they don't have him just do the silent pro tag thing, or actually give him lines like they've done before, I have no idea. Also, I noticed that typos seem to become more prevalent around this point. Now, I know, I may be nitpicking, it's a text-heavy game, translators are bound to miss stuff, etc, etc. But, I don't know, it's not like this is a small little indie game or something, this is a major company release. And some of these typos are glaringly obvious, and a few of them are even in required story moments that you have to see. I just feel like they could have done a bit better of a job at having people go over and check for this stuff. Also, have this unique piece of dialogue too. Eventually, you finally deliver Bunny Doggo to a marshmallow demon that's eating Yuko's head. She tells you that she's trying to tell everyone what Crusadermon did, and also mentions Faye, which is the last time her name shows up in the story. Bye Faye, thanks for everything, you were great, bye, see you later, bye. After that, and a few other small side quests, you meet up with Nokia and Omnimon, who tell you that almost all of the Royal Knights are in Tokyo now, and that you should try to recruit the ones that are against genocide. Or at least on the fence about it. The first ones you find are Dynasmon and Leopardmon, who is even more gung-ho about this plan than Crusadermon. Nice work guys, great start. Good thing Gallantmon shows up to be like, hey dude, chill. So Leopardmon goes, "Whoa, take it easy, man," and leaves for the time being. Man, these names are getting kind of silly to say. Taco Man is then asked by Yuko to help find more info on the backstory of the game. Together, the two of you find the man from near the beginning of the game, who seems to be having some conflicting memories. So you delve into his cyber mind, which actually looks kind of cool, and has stock footage playing in the background. Then fight an annoying boss that uses bug on itself, and then you steal his heart. I mean, he remembers things. Why there was a Digimon in his brain, I don't know. Maybe it's his gamer brain chip implant. He tells you that during the closed beta test of Eden, 5 kids passed out for a little while. 4 of them woke up, but 1 was comatose. It's known that 2 of them were Yuko and Yugo, but he has no idea who the others are. 5 kids, huh? Gee, if only we had some clue who they were. Hey Arada, Nokia, Yuko, Yugo's comatose body. I'm sure that with the 5 of us, we can figure it out. Ow, oof, ouchie, oh no. My flashback about 5 kids with hair similar to us is happening again. Hopefully that's nothing bad, haha. He also says that the kids described going into another world, and then they were left alone with Suedo to tell their story. You know, the guy you totally trust with children. They were then given a mind wipe for their own safety. The man says that he wants his fake memories back too, because he's happier that way. So you do, and then after dropping him off at home so he can deal with his family, get an urgent phone call from the detective, begging you for help. After saving him and Corruption Incarnate from an eater, you chase Arata into the subway. Teaming up, you two head in deeper, finding a group of Arata's friends being consumed. Arata regrets not having enough power to help them, and then Suedo shows up, saying that he can give Arata that power by merging him with an eater, and that eaters are just like us, woo. Too bad Arata gets eaten by one, having a before-death vision of him being unable to save Yugo or his other friends. Oops, bye Arata, it was nice knowing you. Join the other group of never-again-appearing characters like Faye and Jimmy Ken. Gotcha! He's fine, he's hacked out of the monster by Suedo, and Kyoko finally shows up just to tell Arata not to trust the guy. Well, I mean, duh. But Arata, despite hating this man and trusting him about as much as this game is fun, decides to follow him to gain some vague promised power. Okay dude, sure, have fun with becoming a corrupt monstrosity, I guess. Not like I'm right here fixing everything with OP Digimon that kill everything they touch! Back at the office, Kyoko says that she went off the grid to find the other Royal Knight Digis, making her disappearance much less dramatically cool. You are now tasked with grabbing as many of these guys as you can to take on the genocidal ones. I'm basically playing a Digimon version of Hungry Hungry Hippos. And so, our quest to grab all of the OP Digimon we can begins. First up is Endeavor, who not only looks like the My Hero character, but actually has the same VA. He doesn't want to help, but he says that if you can train his dog, you can keep him. The dog does not like you, and wants to go beat up another Digimon, so you break into a museum and... Oh, wait a second, there are guards blocking the entrance. In fact, there are guards all over the place. And you cannot pass by them without turning invisible, and having to sit through that animation just to go to another area. Once or twice as a puzzle is fine, but I just want to go buy clothes. Let me through here already, jeez. Anyway, you break into a museum with Endeavor's dog. It's actually kind of cool looking, especially the lobby area. But the dungeon is more or less just a teleport around puzzle. Except that you actually have to transverse the teleporter, fighting a couple things on the way, making it much more tedious and less interesting than it needed to be. Once you finally reach the center of this digital shift, you see that the dog has gotten the stuffing kicked out of him by this buff furry Jotaro, who's lecturing him about being a real man. You step in to help, and together you kill the lion, with Endeavor showing up to congratulate you, and call his puppy a good boy. The puppy, who is incredibly cute, I'd buy a plushie of him, suddenly digivolves into a spooky, scary skeleton robot, ruining his perfection, but also giving you an ally in the Royal Knight Jesmon. Endeavor and the furry also have a bromantic moment, and probably made out off-screen. Next up is Magnamon, who is hiding out in mementos and took Stay Gold, Ponyboy, a little too literally. His quest is thankfully pretty straightforward. Find him in the subway. He says he totally doesn't trust you to fix things. Then Nokia shows up for absolutely no reason with your weird dog and his demon marshmallow friend. They say you're cool, so Magnamon says you're cool. But then Dynasmon shows up and is like, actually, you're not cool. Take that, liberal. So you and Magnum Dong beat him up, and then he leaves while being all like, well, I meant to lose. You're gonna be the one in the losing end. Blah, blah, blah. So Magnamon is now your friend. Yay! Another monster added to my gacha pull collection. Taco Man then takes a quick detour to talk to Yuko, who wants to delete the Yugo avatar she was using for moving on reasons. However, she can't delete it, and apparently Yugo's been doing stuff around Eden without her input. Thinking it's hackers, you rush down to find the avatar.
Because their honor didn't hinge on the avatar's capture. Mine does.
And when you do, oh god, the AI has gained sentience. Come on, Yuko, we're gonna go put him down. But after having her Digimon evolve and seeing the avatar beg for its life, Yuko decides to let them live. Because yeah, what damage could a self-aware AI do when they're the leader of an infamous hacking group in a world where hackers are basically considered domestic terrorists? Probably nothing, right? Well, that's actually correct, because we never hear about them ever again. For the next Royal Knight, a centaur literally named Kentar-Samon, you have to do some nonsense. Basically, he's too fast for you to actually call down for a little chat slash beat up slash makeout session, and the only Digimon that can match his speed, the Royal Knight All-Force Vidramon, died in the complete failure of an apocalypse that Crusadermon tried to do. Your solution to this? Well, duh! You just have to go to another dimension and recruit that Ultra Eevee-mon to your side, and then bring them back over here. It's simple logic, dude. In order to do that, you go to Mirai, who is omnipotent or something, I guess. And she fuses her lesbians into Mastamon, which opens up a portal to another world for you. Inside the alternate dimension, you meet Rina, who broke the zipper on her hoodie and does not care that she forgot to wear a shirt today. She is also very loud and annoying. She's apparently a character from another Digimon game, but I've never played it, and the wiki doesn't really help describe her backstory. I mean, look, her page doesn't even summarize the game she's in. Rina's Vmon, Vivi, just lost really bad to a wizard, so in order to digivolve him, she forcibly enters your dimension and demands you help her hunt down Gandalf the Greymon. Going once again into the subway, come on, you guys have a whole TV in Temple World too. You eventually hunt down this guy, and Rina decides to go into a toe-to-toe fist fight with him, starting with a drop kick. You join the battle too, and eventually murder Dumbledoremon, letting Eevee evolve into Ultra Eevee-mon. Heading back to Eden, you challenge Horsemon to a battle in a digital skyscape, with a digital blimp for some reason, and of course you thrash him. He asks that you kill him, but Rina decides that he should instead pal around with her in Ultra Force Vivi for a while, a fate worse than death. Now you know how I feel with Nokia, bro. But hey, we got our own pony now. Almost like the game heard my pleas, you receive news that Arata has been spotted in the Asakusa Temple Digital Rift, and rush off to meet him. When you find him, he's attacking two Eaters, and tells you not to interfere. So of course the very next second you interfere. After beating up one Eater, Arata begins to absorb the other one. Arata digivolve into Armrata! After voring the vorer, Armrata becomes very evil, because who could have seen that coming? And threatens to absorb you too, despite him wanting to do this so that he could be strong enough to protect you. Gallantmon shows up and just starts absolutely whipping it in a fight against Armrata, so Arata leaves complaining that he wasn't doing enough DPS. Gallantmon chases after him, and my nightmare sends a phone call saying we should meet up. Conversing with the others, you realize that the big dragon and likely Crusadermon are in Odaiba. Yuko calls Nokia an idiot, you go girl. Nokia calls Arata a hunk, despite the fact that he is clearly a twink, and you all decide to go confront them with the royal knights you've got on your side. After walking down a burning street and having a wild encounter every 3 steps, you go to the roof of a, I guess, unguarded by the military building. Seriously, I can't get clothes, but I can go to the roof of a building under siege? And wow, both the dragon and Crusadermon are here. What a fun coincidence. But before we fight, what's over here first? Oh, nothing. Okay, cool. Dragon fight time. Blah blah blah, evil speech. The rest of the knights then show up to help. Dragon fight. But after only a couple of turns, even if you're winning, a cutscene that makes it look like you're losing happens, where 2 of the knights chase after the dragon before he causes damage. And man, they chose a bad time to do that, because seconds after they leave, Armrata shows up and hand-vores Gallantmon. How he got so much power so fast while on the run from both the knights and the police, who knows, but he does. He also goes insane with power. Hooray! But instead of doing literally anything about this, Taco Man, Yuko, Nokia, Omnimon, and Magnamon just do nothing. Like guys, this is clearly a problem. You could have at least, said something? Made any effort to stop him? No? Okay, sure, why not? And then they all whine like, oh no, why is this happening? How could he have done this? I don't know. Did any of you try to stop and ask him? I'm gonna lose my marbles! Yuko, saying that everyone's exhausted after a fight that lasted 2 turns, says they should return to the office. Kyoko explains that, while they failed this time, she found out that the dragon always has to take a break after a period of activity, and that's the time to strike. In the meantime, Yuko decides to go to the depths of Eden to stop what the group thinks is the central control point that Crusadermon is using to manipulate the dragon. Even though you know where you're going, and even have a shortcut to get there, you have to head to the entrance of Kowloon, receive a phone call saying you're in the wrong place, and then you can go to where you're supposed to. Otherwise, this random NPC blocks the way. Hitting a literal wall in this investigation, Taco-Man says that Yuko sounds pretty worked up, but her Japanese VA really doesn't give off that kind of vibe.
保留点はこのエリアの奥にあるはずですが。
Suedo shows up and once again is vague and creepy. But, having no other option, they have him delete the wall. Which you think Yuko would have the ability to do herself as like the supreme admin of Kamishiro. But I guess not. After going through a small pitfall puzzle dungeon, you encounter Craniummon guarding the livestream flow. Suedo tries to sweet-talk him into joining his side to evolve humanity to a supreme state, something that other media has shown us will definitely work and not backfire or create monstrosities in any way. Cranium declined, so you and Yuko beat him up. After Suedo tells the Digimon that he has a free will right as he's dying, something the Digimon definitely did not ask about nor is helped by, he disables the power for you. Suedo says more madman crazy stuff about a world free from sadness, then he just leaves as Yuko's like, I don't know, I think he's still sane. Whatever you say, Yuko. So after some more mandatory quests, you head off to try your luck on the Durgo again. And who else is waiting there but Armrada himself? He monologues about how he loves his power, and can eat Ethers, Digimon, and even humans, and how he's always just so hungry now, and he's losing his ability to feel any emotions, and then he wraps it all up with an evil crazy man laugh. But enough about that glaring immediate issue. First, let's team up to fight this dragon that's stuck and lost here and not really much of a threat with those deactivated streams. This fight is actually pretty neat conceptually. Armrada is fighting alongside you like a Digimon, even gaining his own victory animation. And they went with give this epic fight more health, not more damage, as a means to make it cooler. But, after an 8-minute long battle using the exact same mechanics you've used the entire rest of the game, only having to revive your Digimon every so often at most, it feels like just another fight, nothing super crazy about it outside of its scale. But that's just my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. Or a whole spoonful. I don't care, eat as much salt as you want, it's your soup. After beating the Dwaggy, who makes kind of a funny face as it's dying, you and Armrada have a staring contest. And then he's like, "Bwah, bwah, bwah. I don't care if I'm being used. Thinking is hard. I'm a weak little baby boy. I just want to be strong." He says he's not the person he once was, despite it only being like a day or two since he got his new power glove. I think. Look, I have no idea. It's so hard to comprehend the passing of time in this game. As far as I know, it could all be taking place over the course of like a week and a half. Armrada also does a cool ninja flip off the roof for no reason other than to look cool for the one guy watching. I like to imagine he landed face first. It makes it funnier. At the office again, Cleavage tells you that you have everything you need, and not to worry too much about Armrada, despite the threat that even she acknowledges he poses. Yuko then informs you that she found Crusadermon, so the two of you run off to go hunt her down. After taking a short little stroll through the TV world together, you come across Crusadermon, who explains that she didn't kill Yuko's dad because Crusadermon wanted to, but because Kishibe wanted to. Keep that in mind for later. She also says that it was because Taco-Man, Yugo, and his 3 friends went to the digital world 8 years ago as kids that the ether started spreading there somehow. And Yuko finally realizes that you were the beta testers that Suedo manipulated the memory of. Hooray, we did it! She finally figured it out, yay! Congrats, here, have a cookie. But enough talk, have at you! Oh, and she's dead. Okay, that was a pretty easy fight. But what a twist. That's not the real Crusadermon, just a hologram that does something, I don't know, to basically send you into an alternate digital dimension. And despite Yuko being next to him less than a second ago, Taco-Man reasons away being alone as, she just left before me. You walk through a hallway, see some Demon Ghost memory children, and watch them discover the Digimon portal. And then, you see Yuko find your Digivice goggles on the ground. Okay, but I still legitimately do not know what Crusadermon did to you. Or is this just your memory flashbacks that also somehow cause you to disappear from reality? I have absolutely no idea. Nokia is very quick to not be concerned about this, calling you vanishing into thin air just a character trait. Why Nokia? Because he did it one time? You kill hundreds of Digimon, but you vanish one time, and suddenly you're Houdini! Kyoko, who is actually concerned, sends Nokia and Yuko to go find Taco Man. Now, I thought the game was actually going to do something kind of cool here, pull up Chrono Trigger kind of moment where the protagonist is gone and you take over as another character for a bit. You wander around and even fight in battles as Nokia. Sadly, this doesn't last for long, as Nokia quickly finds the demon memory children and starts the next section of the plot after only like 6 minutes. Right as the two of them are about to enter the mysterious portal they found, Yugo's ghost struts right up to them and is all like, "Sup?" He explains that when they found the Digiworld as kids, an Eater managed to get him and vor his mental data, but not destroy it. So now he's stuck as a sort of virtual phantom that appears in the vicinity of Eaters, and also learned that the Eaters are basically a hive mind. Why no one else that's been eaten by an Eater becomes a ghost, I have no idea. Yuko and Nokia then enter the past digital world, and watch as Nokia becomes friends with Agu and Gabumon. Their mistake. And then they watch as an Eater enters the portal, causing Yugo to sacrifice himself and get Eatered to give everyone else a chance to escape, while Arata is forced to tell everyone to run. Man, it's a good thing Suedo gave them a frontal lobotomy or whatever immediately afterwards, or this could have been traumatic. Then Crusadermon shows up again and surrounds the two with Eaters, accusing them of being the cause of ruination and blah 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 blah. She's given this speech like 5 times now. We then get another anime cutscene, where Kyoko is somehow not hitting any traffic near Tokyo as she goes back to the future style through a portal while becoming a Transformer. Oh, and hey, they found Taco Man. He was in this creepy hand void place all along. Yay! How they got there and where there is, I have no idea. But yay! It turns out that, just like Kashibi, Kyoko is basically just a dead puppet corpse the whole time, this one being piloted by the much more friendly Alphamon. Crusadermon, pissed that they've become so human, decides to kill them, but fails super hard and actually finally dies for real this time. But not before giving one last absolute giant middle finger to Yuko by saying how her personality sucks. Like, oh my god, Crusadermon, chill. Also, quick side note, but I find it hilarious how they have 2 entirely separate models for your protagonist losing their goggles. He's not wearing his Game Life shirt, but instantly gets it back when he puts his goggles on. I don't know much about game dev, but wouldn't it be easier to just swap out the head or something? Or make the goggles separate and remove them? I have no idea, but it's still funny to me. Back at the office, Kyokomon explains that the real Kyoko and Kashibi were caught by Eaters about 8 years ago. After Kyoko went right to Kashibi to say, "Hey, I'm gonna arrest you with all this super incriminating evidence that I haven't even shown anyone yet." And the evidence was actually fake in the trap, too. Smart girl, that one. Seeing their chance, Alphamon and Crusadermon were like,
It's free real estate.
and took over their bodies. And also, maybe it was Suedo who sicked an Eater on them somehow. Who knows? Insert one more of their oddly forced weird coffee flavored jokes. Have her say, "While I was a human, I saw that humans weren't actually so bad." And bam! Plot exposition over. Boobmon tells the gang that Leopardmon is planning on taking the digital energy at the top of the Metropolitan building to digivolve into an even stronger monster than the dragon. And you gotta help us! So off you go! To the absolute worst dungeon in the game. Basically, there are several different floors on each level, and a bunch of pathways on each floor that have one-way drops on them to the lower floor. Only one elevator takes you to the next level, and all of the others just move you around 3 or 4 different floors. In order to get all of the items, you have to keep dropping down and then going back up and repeating circles over and over because it's easy to get lost. And the whole time, the best you can do is just slightly reduce encounter rates. If I had like full-fledged repels that reduce the encounters to 0, that would be much more bearable. But instead, every 5 steps I just hear pew, beep 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 beep. It gets old really fast, and I just start begging to reach the end as soon as possible, please. But oops, made a mistake again and dropped down my wrong spot. Time to walk in the circle again. Partway through the dungeon, the gang also encounters Dynasty Warriorsmon. While you may remember him from earlier in the video, by this point in the game, like 15 or so hours later, I had completely forgotten who this guy was, and have been wondering who this Leopardmon simp was until I rewatched the footage while making this script. Despite his massive talk, joke's on him, I've been forced to grind for the past 2 hours in this hellscape dungeon, making him laughably easy. As he's fading from existence, he's like, haha, I still win because I'm a martyr. To who, buddy? Like, there's only one person alive that still cares about you, and they're gonna die in like 1 hour anyway. And then Kyoko cold-heartedly makes fun of his dying laugh. Up on the roof, we see not actually a Leopardmon absorbing generic electricity, and Arm Rada. He mopes around for a little bit, and then creates a magic wall that he walks through and becomes Full Body Rada. Full Body Rada. Full Body Rada, who is convinced that he is still sane despite turning himself into an eater and gaining a glitchy voice, begs you not to look at him before saying that he'll eat your power. That'll help him achieve his goal of protecting his friends. After beating him, Yuko and Kyokomon, like wingmen at a bar, both encourage you to enter him. Inside Full Body Rada, you see Normal Rada, who tells you that he doesn't need your help and that you should leave, so you deck him right in his stupid face! And this somehow returns him to normal, but he's pissed that you literally freed him from being an insane, all-devouring monster, so he decks you in the face too! Oh, and then you punch him again! Heck yeah, cat fight, let's go boys! And it uses the silliest stock sound effects that it could have used, especially when it goes rapid fire. Yeah, don't worry about that guy behind you that's promising to destroy everything if he fully charges, I'm sure he's not important. Taco Man starts to glitch out but becomes fine, Arada and him make up, make out, and then uh-oh, Leopardmon is basically finished charging up. Man, if only somebody didn't go absolutely mob psycho on us. But Nokia shows up and tells her hacker gang to do something, proving once again that she's here for literally no reason and is only helpful because she has a simp army, including a simp mon. Nokia acts like, but I thought you told me to help, and everyone else is like, no, Nokia, nobody likes you. And then Arada does a bunch of random laughs while calling us all idiots, despite him seeming pretty stupid himself 5 seconds ago. God, I hate these people. I, once again, love how the villain's plans are just, like, actually stopped. They could have given him just enough power, have him transform into something stronger and let you beat him, and then make him do a final speech that's like, I'm just weak enough to be stopped, but I'm still all-powerful and stuff. But no, instead, just like Thoughtmon's Portal and Eater Trap, it just fails. And I find that hilarious. So, you battle and kill him. And just like that, one of the last major antagonistic forces is gone. Literally all that's left is just stopping the Eaters from spawning. But no one knows how to do that. They really are kind of the embodiment of, I didn't think I'd get this far. But it's okay, because Sueda was listening the whole time. And, despite nobody trusting him, everyone thinking he's going to do something shady, and having just turned Arada into a monster, they're like, hey dude, can you help us? And he's like, oh sure I can! All we have to do is send all of the Eaters to the digital world. And when everyone says that would cause another genocide, he's like, nah, don't worry, I wouldn't let that happen. I need them for my super vague human evolution plan that sounds super evil. Which is apparently enough for everyone to trust him. So anyway, blah 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 stuff happens. It's explained that the Mother Eater hive mind brain is in another world possessing a tree? That's what the wiki looks like. The Royal Knights show up and help Suedo open the portal, and all of the Eaters are raptured. The goal becomes to free Yugo's mental data because it'll somehow fix everything, and then it's finally time for endgame. Also, don't worry about Gallantmon, he's fine, he's just hiding in the back. You're now given the option to go past the final point of no return, or head back and grab some items or finish any quests you still have, along with some new ones added for the endgame segments. One of them is Arada's, who wants to go into the core of Eden and beat the security system that destroyed his team. Remember that plot point? Well, it boils down to just an optional side quest with almost no payoff. And it's also actually a Digimon. Wow, who could have seen that coming? So after you beat it, Arada's Digimon evolves. It's at this point I once again gave the game too high of an expectation, and thought it was going to do another sort of cool Chrono Trigger thing again. This one being a bunch of optional side quests right before the final boss to give the characters closure, and an extra boost in the final battle. But they don't do that. At least not entirely. Arad is really the only one who has any lasting effect, as his Digimon actually does help you fight some of the final enemies in the game. However, none of the other side quests really have any bearing on the story, and can be skipped entirely if you don't care about the reward. One of them has you help a Momentai stop some Digimon tamers and scam artists, during which you actually finally get to do some sleuthing and deduction. About time. There's a quest that has you mediate a fight between a devil and an angle. Also a quest where you help a loser otaku run all over Tokyo gathering stamps so he can shake a girl's hand. Another series of quests has you fight some Digis that Rina finds before her and her Ultra Eevimon take you on as well. There's the Monkey Rock star from an earlier quest, now a Metal Monkey Man, asking for your help freeing his human friend from the clutches of Jimmy Ken, who makes his comeback tour return. But it turns out that the girl and Jimmy Ken are actually dating now, because there's apparently nothing more attractive to her than a guy who brainwashes a bunch of underage kids to be his loyal cult followers and go on a mystery pilgrimage. It's also sometime during these endgame quests that I started playing with some friends watching in the Discord call, which made everything significantly more entertaining. At one point, we got so bored with side quests that I opened up my saved photos and videos, and we all had a great time laughing and enjoying each other's company, bringing us closer together as people. So, Digimon Cyber Sleuth, I can at least say thank you for that. Maybe the real mystery was the friends we made along the way. Finally, a quest by Mirai has you help this new girl that I don't recognize because she's also from a game that I never played. She says that her Digimon was taken from her when they beat 7 deadly sin-based Digis in her dimension, so in order to bring it back, you also need to defeat them in your world. Except that they are brutally hard and all of their moves are instant kills. I tried like 2 of them before deciding it wasn't worth it, giving up and progressing to the end of the game. They do get a cheesy but entertaining entrance cutscene though. Sorry, random girl I never met before. I guess your Digi's staying dead. Oops, oh well, oh no, bye. So you and your group finally make your way through the Rapture Sky Portal and land in the Digimon world, which has changed from Avatar to a Banksy piece. You then begin your trek to the core of the world, which is conveniently only a short walk from where you started. Along the way, you fight some of the world's security systems, which are oddly easy considering they're the last normal enemies you fight. It is kind of neat though, each fight has a different partner helping you out, so it feels like your group is actually there to help you instead of just following you around. Following the swarm of ascended Ethers, you're led to a giant pit, where Yugo's Cyber Ghost tells you to follow him. Suedo is also there, and everyone at this point is just waiting for him to try something. After a few more security drone fights, Taco Man and Co. reach the bottom of the pit, where the giant Mother Eater is sitting and controlling the God Tree King thing. I will say, the texture on it is kind of cool. It does that chowder thing where it's a solid texture that the characters move around on top of. There's also a terminal to enter Mirai's little hobbit hole. I know and appreciate that it's there for convenience's sake, but I do find it kind of funny that the inside of a god just has a telephone sitting there. Upon seeing the Mother Human Reaper, Taco Man can't enter it to shut it down from the inside, so everyone collectively decides to just beat the devil out of it. Grr.
Just beat the devil out of it.
And dang, that was a pretty wimpy final boss, huh? Almost like there's gonna be another phase or something. Ah well. Inside it, you find Yugo's data fragment. He seems to be arguing with his younger self, or some other thing that this game thought was cool and deep. And then when you reach Yugo's actual Yugo finally, he tells Taco Man not to come near him. But you ignore him and drag him out without listening to his reasoning. Just like a real friend. Now, there is one thing I'd like to point out and question here. Why does Yugo look like that? First, since he was eaten and basically turned into pure data, why did he age? Like, we know he was a young kid when it happened, and now he looks about the same age as everyone else. Shouldn't he still look like a kid? The only reason I can think of is that his data body is matching his normal body in the real world, because I guess his biology is still communicating somehow. And even if he did age while being data, did his clothes grow and change with him? Or was he wearing an oversized outfit when he was eaten that ended up fitting him perfectly? Did he decide to just spawn clothing that looked like this in data form because he thought he looked snazzy? And also, way back near the beginning of the game, when Yuko was disguising herself as Yugo, how did she know that he would dress exactly in this outfit? Anyway, everyone celebrates Yugo being alive. However, he tells you that he was the reason the Eaters weren't causing as much damage as they could, and now that he's out, there is nothing keeping them from eating everything. There's also the memory data of everyone else that was eaten inside there too, and he was keeping them from being completely digested. But Suedo, being himself, is like, psh, it's fine. Nothing a little evolution into the next stage of humanity can't fix. Then Suedo walks up to everyone, who move out of the way for him, then let him monologue about taking over and creating a new world, and then they have every opportunity to stop him from doing anything evil, or at the very least morally gray, and do absolutely nothing! They just let him take over the Eater hive mind, and they're like, oh no, if only anyone could have done something about this. You could have, you absolute morons! My god. Taco Man tries to jump in and pull Suedo out too, but is too weak after helping Yugo, and risks being erased if he tries again. Alphamon then says, actually, Suedo's ideal future might not be that bad, and I'll help watch over it to make sure it's not a disaster. But it's your call, I guess. And you all go, heck no, screw that idea, humans are fine as are. I love global warming. Nod to each other one at a time, and start beating the Suedo Reaper up. The fight starts with you attacking his hands and groin. Not only is this odd because you were at least torso level with the Mother Eater a minute ago, and then somehow had the ground lower, but also because the first thought a bunch of noble, world-saving children have is go below the belt, guys! But, to be fair, it is like pissing Step-Ups on itself. Time to take a piss. Honestly, it's not that much different from a normal fight. It's just 3 different targets that each get 1 action, and they're all neutral to avoid getting hit super hard by any of your team. You do have Noki and Dorada switch out with each other as your partner halfway through though, so that's fun. I just think it would have been cooler if they were both fighting with you together at the same time though. Once Suedo's meat is beat, Yuga turns into a freaking Dragon Ball Z character and just starts putting up force shields and shooting energy blasts at the final boss. Dang dude, you're pretty spry for someone who's basically been imprisoned for 8 years. Also, insert I have my friends to help me speech. I'll admit that I actually enjoy this kind of cliche speech when done well. I just want to mention how formulaic the game is being. Then, despite not seeing anyone move at all, and only seeing your own party fly away, you are now on a piece of ground that's floating in front of Suedo Reaper's head. Things do get a little different here. Now each target has an affinity attached to them. While this does make the fight a bit more dynamic, it also means that I can take out half of its health in one decent hit. He does heal the shoulder parts a few turns after they're taken down, but by that point his weak head is almost dead and you don't really need to worry about them anyway. Honestly, I feel like here would have been a good time for the bug status effect. If it was a final boss only ability, it could cause me to constantly have to change up my tactic, from either it or my Digimon changing their typing. It might be a bit annoying still, but significantly less so if it was just a way to make the final battle a bit more unique and challenging. It would make sense too, since he's now essentially a giant corrupted program. Just also pop some more health onto these guys, and or make it where all the parts have to be taken down within a couple turns of each other. I think that would make it a much more interesting fight. That's just my opinion though, maybe I was overleveled or something, I don't know. But they didn't do that, and the fight is easy, with me easily taking him down and my friends and I laughing. I didn't even land the final blow, Arata's Digimon did, and it does that thing where it holds on with 1 HP and starts a cutscene instead. I thought maybe it had one more phase that was actually going to be a bit more difficult, but it didn't. That's it, I straight up beat the game right then. Man, even Jimmy Ken was a harder fight than this guy. The music was cool though, at least. Suedo Reaper starts to explode and fall backwards, before a scene transition shows that he actually fell forward instead. While everyone else is relieved it's over and talking about how to fix things and what to do with Suedo, Taco Man decides to be a hero for no reason and runs in after him. While everyone else yells at him to stop, Kyokomon encourages him to do it, despite knowing that it will kill him. Thanks, Boob Lady. Taco Man hunts around to help free Suedo, but he's just like, nah, I'd honestly rather vanish from existence than fail my goal, and says that he won't follow you back. He then says some stuff about dice, and parallel universes, and the Eaters being agents of a god from another dimension or something. before once again saying, "Hey kid, screw off, I am not going anywhere," and kicking Taco Man out. That's right guys, the protag literally sacrificed himself to try and bring someone back that refused to be saved and effectively leaves with a net loss. Thanks again, Boob Lady. Taco Man emerges weakened, but not dead, and the party flees the now restructuring digital world. The mental data that all of the Eaters took is sent back to the real world. A sphere flies around and Boobmon says that's the Eater's original form. Why it even became a monster in the first place, I have no idea. Everyone says goodbye to their Digi-friends, the Royal Knights and other Digimon in the real world head back home, and Taco Man and co all jump through the portal leading to their world. Except that Taco Man dies. Escapism. Dang it, Nokia, I knew you'd be the death of me! Your friends land in the middle of Shibuya's streets, pick up Taco Man's Digivice, which somehow survived despite it clearly vanishing along with him, and then they get hit by a car because they're in the middle of a busy road. Okay, no, they don't. I lied, I'm sorry. But the game really almost makes it sound like that. Me and my friends lost it at that part. Nokia narrates and explains that, basically, the God Tree King reversed time, so that the Eaters never entered the digital world and literally nothing bad happened to the present day as a result. No one battles Digimon, Yugo woke up and is now in physical therapy, his and Yuko's dad was never murdered and actually started dating Kishibe, despite Crusadermon explicitly saying it was Kishibe who was the one that wanted to murder him. Digimon are here and not here, because they basically just became Tamagotchi. Suedo never existed, Cyberpunk 2077 came out in a complete and polished state on all consoles, and Eden Syndrome was replaced with the results of a terrorist attack 8 years ago causing comas, which everyone suddenly wakes up from. Except Taco Man. Nokia says that she's confused, big surprise there, and breaks the fourth wall to tell us that maybe we can figure it out. I don't really want to. Me use Thinky Brain too much already. All of your friends are mourning Taco Man's brain-dead body, when Nokia decides to go and become a Cyber Sleuth herself and figure out a way to wake him up. Arata runs after her, because knowing Nokia, she'd probably pour bleach down Taco Man's mouth because someone on the forum told her it'd work. Meanwhile, Alphamon greets you as you wake up in the portal, explaining that your Digimon loved you so much that they hunted down your data parts and cyberglued them back together. A nice little scene where you look at all of the Digimon in your party during the final boss happens, basically doing the Hall of Fame sort of thing. And you wake up thankfully before Nokia can do anything to actually kill you. Credits roll, and then the post-credit scene plays where Taco Man's sitting in the park, and Jimmy-Ken runs past, being pursued by Kyoko, who's probably trying to catch him on pedophilia charges. Kyoko, now the original one that was cybervored in the first timeline, doesn't remember Taco Man and comments on how weird he is for drinking mayo with coffee. Because yeah, it's really weird, and I know it's trying to be a touching scene, but it just came off as really stupid and funny. Despite not knowing Taco Man, Kyoko said that she'd probably hire him as an assistant anyway, because she just has good vibes about it, before she runs off again. End of game. New Game Plus unlocked. Hey, at least I get to keep my gamer shirt. So, ending thoughts time, I suppose. Honestly, if I had to summarize this game in one word, it'd be boring. Outside of a couple status effects being introduced every so often, combat is mostly just spam your strongest special attack as much as you can, and then restore SP. Over and over and over and over. Combat never feels fun or interesting, even during boss battles. I know that it's somewhat standard for JRPG, but at least the ones I've enjoyed have had a good or even decent story to back it up. However, in my humble opinion, Digimon Cyber Sleuth does not have a strong enough story to carry the stale combat. It's confusing at its worst and boring at its best, being padded out with a ton of useless and forced side quests. There were even some moments in battle or on the overworld where I'd just stop and do nothing for a minute or two, because I actually fell asleep in my chair. The best thing in the game for me was the music, but that's just because it was such a low bar to overcome. For the most part, it wasn't annoying or horrible, and it served its purpose. But that's about it. Think of some other great RPGs, and you'll most likely think of one song you can hum from memory. Pokemon, Persona, Dragon Quest, Chrono Trigger, Paper Mario, Final Fantasy, Xenoblade, Mother, Undertale, Elder Scrolls. All games that you can probably sing a song from. I played only a couple notes from these games, and you probably recognized them. But the songs in Digimon just aren't anything special or memorable or exciting. And honestly, it's kind of weird to me that I say all of this. This is more or less just a subpar Pokemon game, but I enjoy Pokemon. So why do I dislike this game so much? Well, the story failing at being interesting is one reason, but not the whole. I think part of it is that Pokemon generally has a more interesting environment. Being in the real world is fine and all, but Cyber Sleuth just fails to make any of it interesting. Meanwhile, in Pokemon, I'm going to big cities, simple small towns, volcanic islands, temples, mountains, deserts, etc. You are always wondering what the next area is going to look like. I know what Shibuya looks like, and this game doesn't even attempt to make it interesting to look at or explore, instead actively hindering it by making it an oddly tiny area. Anyway, sorry for that small tangent, but I feel like an obligatory comparison between the two and an explanation for my viewpoints was necessary. Back to Cyber Sleuth, once again, it's just boring. However, if you think that the gameplay doesn't look too bad, or you hear back of the book synopsis and it sounds like a story that may be interesting to you, then try the game anyway. I have seen plenty of people preach how good this game is, so clearly there's something of merit and enjoyment in this title. There's also a sequel to it, Hacker's Memory, that maybe is better, I don't know. Everyone seems to use footage of it when talking about this game being on sale, so it seems to be the more favorite part. To be honest, I probably won't try it, but there's another option to look at if you want to get into the series. This game also didn't turn me off of Digimon. I still love a lot of the designs in this series, and while I don't think it works great as an RPG, I think Digimon can be a very promising setting in other games. For example, I'm still looking forward to trying Digimon Survive, a turn-based strategy game, a game genre I enjoy, where I think that the slightly grittier parts of Digimon can shine, and the unique monsters can make for some fun gameplay. Who knows if I'm right or wrong, but I think that the fact that I'm optimistic proves that Cyber Sleuth did not entirely fail me. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I would really appreciate if you clicked subscribe, or like, or bell, and all that other fun stuff that every other video asks you for. So, just as playing this game and making this video has been escapism for me, hopefully watching through this super long summary/review has been some fun escapism for you too. And just remember, game is life. Later, gamers!